Hello everyone, this is C.A. Sujata Shukla-Rajan, author of Bhog Naivedya, Food Offerings to the Gods, recently published by Rupa Publications. First of all, thank you to all of you who responded to Attagalata Bangalore's Ask the Author with hashtag AG Ask the Author event featuring my book and I. And a big shout out to Bangalore's very own iconic Attagalata, which is using innovative techniques to connect authors and the reading public in these housebound times. The questions you asked were from different perspectives and made me think a bit before I could respond. Attagalata have asked me to select the top 3 questions and respond to them here. It was a little difficult to pick, so I decided on 2 main criteria. Questions which I found interesting and to which I could make responses which I hope you will enjoy listening to, and questions which would bring out different aspects of my book and give some insights into temple foods of India. So here we go. The first question I'm discussing is asked by Debashri Bose with Instagram handle _DB2112. The question is, what was the research you had to do for the book? And since it's India and we have multiple cuisines here and every state offers different prasad, what all is covered in this book? And did you face issues because of the vast history that India has? This is a very interesting question, Debashri, because my response will help bring out some of the challenges in writing a non-fiction book and the level of research required to make the book reliable and informative. As the concept for Bhog Naivedya, my book, was to write about the offerings to deities and not just popular items like Tirupati Laddu, which we know as prasad. There was very little documentation available to me when I started on the book, and extensive research was required. To ensure that the book would be based on reliable data, I decided to visit the religious sites that I felt needed to be covered. Hence, my first task was to identify these sites. Then I had to research on whatever was available about these selected sites before I visited them in order that I could ask informed questions. The next challenge was to get introductions to administrators and temple authorities so that I would get access to temple kitchens and cooks. Friends and relatives helped immensely in this, and by and large, even when I did not have an introduction, temple administrators and priests were willing and helpful in answering my questions. For mythological narratives, I either relied on translations of the Puranas or else I took some of the folk tales recounted by temple priests themselves. For historical references, I researched from books by renowned authors. For the poetry and shlokas quoted in the book, I have searched for reliable sources from translations of religious texts as well as from Tamil Sangam poetry. About the second part of your question on what the book covers, Bhog Naivedya covers temple offerings in large, ancient, popular temples in India for a variety of deities and regions. As temples usually offer bhog made from regional cuisine, the selected 58 temples in the book are, I think, fairly representative of the temples of the region as a whole. I did not, however, cover all regions and all large popular temples, as these were too numerous and the distance is too far-flung for me to travel to. Thank you, Debashri, and I hope I have answered your question comprehensively. Debashri's question is the best question of the bunch we received. Next, we have a question from Sai Priya with Instagram handle My Cooking Canvas. Sai Priya wants to know from me, have you ever tasted bhog prepared with the meat or fish of sacrificial animals, which is mostly offered to the goddess as part of tantric rituals? Even it is practiced at Puri Jagannath temple during Durga Puja. Sai Priya, I have to tell you that I have not tasted bhog in most of the temples I visited anywhere in India, whether Satvik or otherwise. Quite often I was not at the temple at the time of bhog offering, but I reached earlier or later. I also worked to a tight itinerary so that I would leave as soon as I collected the information that I needed and proceed to the next temple which I had planned to cover that day. I have, however, learned from the priests of some of the Shakti, that is Devi temples in northeastern and eastern India about the meat and fish offerings made to the goddess. To give you some instances of those that I came across. At Kamakya Devi temple in Guwahati, Assam, both tantric and Vedic rituals are observed. A vegetarian bhog is offered at the daily puja, that is in the mornings. However, a goat is also sacrificed every day. Some of the flesh and blood are offered raw to the deity. Subsequently, the pandas cook the meat and distribute the prasad to the deities. Bhog is what is offered to the deity. Prasad is a sanctified food which is distributed to the devotees. Interestingly, oil and onion and garlic are not used in this process. One such preparation is called Niramish Mangsho or vegetarian mutton. Sacrifices of buffalo, goat, pigeon, etc. are made at Kamakya temple on days of religious significance. If you go through my book, Bhog Nevedya, it will give you details of the meat and fish offerings at Kamakya, then also at the Kali temple at Kolkata, and to goddess Bimla Devi at the Puri Jagannath temple during Navaratri. Several temples in Northeast India, West Bengal, Odisha offer goat sacrifices or fish during days of religious significance, such as for Ashtami Bhog. The offerings of fish often vary, sometimes being sliced and offered raw, sometimes fried or even charred and mashed like a bangan bharta. Thank you for the question, Sai Priya, bringing out some of the diversity in sacred food offerings in India. Next, the last question is from Kiran K. Adharapuram with Insta handle Kiran_Kumar_Adharapuram. Why is the difference in offering Nevedya to the same Vishnu varies by Agama Shastra by different sects of region and philosophy? Example, in Iyengar sect following Agama Shastra, Lord was offered Puliodare and Dadojanam on Ekadasi day. But it was a total fast in Dvaita philosophy of Madhvacharya. And same way of using tubular vegetables like potato and beetroot will not fit South Indian temple Nevedya, but it is acceptable in places like Dwaraka and Puri. Kiran, I am answering your question in two parts. First of all, I am not a theologist, but I am answering this based on my understandings during the research that I conducted for writing Bhog Nevedya. About fasting for Ekadasi and deities being offered a fasting menu for that day. For Vaishnavites, Vaikuntha Ekadasi is a day of significant religious importance. Fasting is observed by devotees. The Padma Purana narrates the mythology of this day and why the concept of fasting on Vaikuntha Ekadasi originated. Fasting is not observed by all Vaishnavites on other Ekadasi days. For those of Madhava sect, however, every Ekadasi day is of significance, not just Vaikuntha Ekadasi. The 3 days of Dasami, Ekadasi and Dwadasi for Madhavas are holy days, and fasting is required on Ekadasi with consumption of rice being strictly prohibited. Interestingly though, in the Tirumala temple to Lord Venkateswara, on Ekadasi each month, the usual morning offering of Mathar Annam, a kind of butter rice, is substituted with Nei Dosai or Ghee Dosai. The differences in Nevedyam, as we can see, are due to differences in philosophy and belief. Your next part of your question about root vegetables not being permitted in South Indian temples but being allowed in Dwaraka and Puri. Kiran, I don't think the basis of the question is correct or is supported by facts, and I'll tell you why. See, I visited a large number of temples all over India for researching my book, and I discussed the Bhog or Nevedyam offerings firsthand with temple priests and cooks who will best know what is being actually offered at the temples. What I have found is that only indigenous vegetables and fruits are offered in the majority of temples, whether it is South Indian temples or North Indian temples or anywhere else in India. Vegetables that began to be cultivated in India from the time of what is called the Columbian Exchange, that is from around the late 15th century CE, were not known when the Agama Shastras came into being. Hence, ancient temples which followed the Agamas did not include vegetables such as potato, tomato, beetroot, carrot, cauliflower, capsicum, chilies in their offerings. This is because those vegetables were just not there when the Agama Shastras were formulated. This culture, if I may call it so, continued in newer temples established much later on. In the Puri Jagannath temple, I had a detailed discussion with one of the senior pandas, and it was clearly informed to me that carrots, beetroot, potato, etc. are not included in the bhog even today. So I don't think the premise that potatoes and beetroot are permitted at Puri is correct. I found a lot of commonality between the culture of ingredients offered in South Indian temples and North Indian temples. I did not see too much difference. The difference was in that temples were following the regional cuisine. So where rice would be seen in South Indian temples, roti would be seen more often in North Indian temples. On the other hand, when we're talking about root vegetables, I have come across several instances of yam and sweet potato, which are considered native and indigenous to India, being included in bhog in temples both in South India and North India. So you will find yam in South Indian temples as well as in North Indian ones. I have not come across specific provisions for not permitting indigenous root vegetables, which you have called tubular vegetables, in temples. I hope I've been able to answer your questions, Kiran. Well, that's all, folks. I've enjoyed this event and I hope you will pick up my book and read it. And one request, please do try to buy them from local bookstores. Attagalatha is not open at the moment, but once it does open its doors, I hope you will pick up my book from there. In Bangalore, copies of Bhog Naivedya are available at all bookstores, including Bookworm and Blossom in Church Street and Nagasri Books at Jayanagar. Most of the stores are arranging for delivery at homes too. Thank you for watching and have a good day.